A millionaire weds a plus-size woman on a dare and is stunned by what follows. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to our main character. Rain drizzled softly over the rooftop of the Vanguard Club, a place where New York's richest gathered to toast their power. Laughter and champagne echoed through the golden light, but the air was thick with arrogance. In the center of the room stood Ethan Cole, a 36-year-old tech millionaire, sharp suit, colder eyes. His friends surrounded him, half drunk, half cruel. One of them smirked, swirling his glass. Ethan, with your money, you could marry anyone. But would you ever dare marry someone? Not model material? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Define not model material. The man chuckled, pointing toward a woman across the room. Maya Brooks, a plus-size catering assistant adjusting the buffet trays, unaware that the laughter was aimed at her. She looked sweet, but come on, man. You would not dare. Something in Ethan's jaw tightened. He despised the empty mockery in their voices. The room waited, daring him to play along. He lifted his glass, eyes steady. Watch me, he said simply. The laughter turned awkward. Someone whispered, You are kidding, right? But Ethan did not blink. His pride, his boredom, and his quiet disgust fused into one reckless decision that would change everything. 2 days later, he showed up at the bakery where Maya worked. The small bell above the door chimed, and she turned, her hands dusted with flour. Her smile was the kind that came from genuine kindness, not expectation. Welcome to Sweet Haven. What can I get for you? Ethan studied her not with mockery, but curiosity. Maybe something real, he said quietly. Then before she could ask what he meant, he added, and maybe a conversation. They sat by the window, rain tapping against the glass. She told him about her mother's medical bills, about working double shifts to stay afloat. He listened, and for the first time in years, he did not feel above anyone. Then came his proposal, calm and businesslike. I need a wife. Temporarily. You will be compensated, and your mother's surgery will be paid in full. You will not owe me anything beyond the public appearances we agree on. The rain down, Skyn Shept, is in the Wilbraforus. Maya blinked, stunned. You cannot be serious. I am, he replied. No strings, no expectations, just a contract. She hesitated, torn between dignity and desperation. The sound of her mother's coughing in the back room echoed in her memory. She looked down at her flour-stained hands, then met his eyes. If this is real, I will do it, she said softly. Ethan nodded, sliding a document across the table. His signature already glistened in black ink. Then we have a deal. Outside, thunder rolled over Manhattan. Inside, two strangers shook hands over what seemed like a transaction, but in truth, it was the beginning of a story that would shatter both of their beliefs about worth, love, and what it truly means to see someone. As Maya locked the bakery door that night, she whispered to herself, It is just business, right? In mating redder one. But deep down, the quiet part of her heart already knew nothing about this was going to stay business for long. The next morning, New York woke under a gray sky heavy with fog. Ethan Cole sat in his glass-walled office overlooking the city. His assistant had left a file on his desk labeled Marriage Agreement. Maya Brooks. He opened it, staring at the neat lines of text. For a man who closed billion-dollar deals, his hands trembled slightly as he read the words he had written himself. A knock broke his thoughts. His lawyer stepped in, cautious. Sir, are you sure about this? The press will find out eventually. Ethan's gaze did not move from the window. Let them, he said quietly. For once, I will do something without caring what the papers say. Meanwhile, across town, Maya woke to the scent of rain and the sound of her mother coughing in the next room. The old apartment felt smaller than ever. Bills were stacked on the kitchen counter like silent judges. She pressed her palms to her face, whispering, This is just a contract. 1 year. Then life goes back to normal. But deep down, she knew nothing about her life would ever be normal again. At noon, a sleek black car waited outside her building. The driver, polite but distant, handed her an envelope with Ethan's embossed logo, and said, "Miss Brooks, Mr. Cole is expecting you." Her neighbors peeked through their curtains as she stepped inside the car, wearing the only decent dress she owned. Soft blue, slightly faded, but pressed carefully. When she arrived at Cole Enterprises, the lobby gleamed with marble and glass. People in tailored suits moved with precision, and for a moment she wanted to turn around and run. But the receptionist smiled kindly. "Mr. Cole is ready for you." Top floor. The elevator ride felt endless. Her reflection stared back from mirrored walls, nervous, out of place, clutching her purse as if it could anchor her. When the doors opened, Ethan was waiting. He looked different in daylight. Not the man from the rooftop party, not the arrogant millionaire she expected. His voice was calm. "Maya, thank you for coming." She nodded, trying to steady her breathing. "I read the contract again. I just need to know one thing. Why me?" Ethan hesitated, searching for an answer that made sense. Finally, he said, "Because you do not pretend. You say what you mean, and I need that right now." She studied him, unsure whether to believe it. Then she signed the papers. The pen scratched softly against the page, sealing a deal that neither of them truly understood. That evening, the courthouse ceremony was private, almost silent. No flowers, no guests, no music. The officiant's voice echoed off marble walls as he asked, "Do you, Ethan Cole, take this woman, Maya Brooks, to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Ethan said, his tone even but his eyes unreadable. "And do you, Maya Brooks, take this man, Ethan Cole, to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Maya swallowed hard. "I do." The papers were signed. The photographer snapped a single shot for legal record. When it was done, Ethan turned to her with a polite nod. "Congratulations, Mrs. Cole. From this moment, you are my wife. Temporarily, of course." They stepped out into the rain. A black limousine waited, its headlights glowing like two watchful eyes. Inside, silence filled the air between them. Not cold, but unfamiliar. Maya looked out the window at the blur of city lights. "I have never even been north of Harlem," she said softly. Ethan glanced her way. "You will see more than Harlem tonight." When the car turned through wrought iron gates, her breath caught. The Cole estate rose before her, massive and perfect, the kind of mansion she had only seen in magazines. The gardens shimmered under wet lights, and fountains whispered as they drove past. Inside, everything smelled faintly of cedar and jasmine. A housekeeper guided her upstairs to a suite that looked bigger than her entire apartment. "This will be your room," Ethan said. "Mine is down the hall. We will maintain separate quarters." Maya nodded, unsure what to say. "Thank you." He paused in the doorway. "Dinner is at 7. Formal attire is optional, but I recommend it. There will be reporters at the gate tomorrow. Do not worry, I will handle it." When he left, she sank onto the edge of the bed, staring at the diamond ring glinting faintly on her finger. Everything felt unreal, the silence, the luxury, the contract that had changed her life overnight. Downstairs, Ethan stood in the dim light of his study, a glass of bourbon untouched in his hand. He watched the rain slide down the window and wondered how a simple dare had brought this woman with her quiet eyes and stubborn dignity into his world. For the first time in years, the mansion felt less like a fortress and more like a place where something might finally begin to breathe. The night of the charity gala arrived like a storm of glitter and expectation. Cameras flashed outside the Cole Foundation ballroom, and reporters shouted questions as luxury cars pulled up one after another. Inside, chandeliers cast a golden glow across the marble floor. Ethan adjusted his cufflinks, every movement precise, rehearsed. But beneath his calm, something unfamiliar stirred. When Maya stepped out of the car beside him, the crowd went silent for half a beat. Her dress was a deep shade of red that caught the light with every breath she took. She was not the woman they had expected. She walked with quiet grace, her head held high, her smile unforced. Ethan offered his arm, and she took it. Cameras exploded in light. One journalist called out, "Mr. Cole, is this your new wife?" "She is." Unexpected. Ethan's jaw tensed, but Maya answered first, her voice steady. "Unexpected can still be extraordinary." The reporter lowered the microphone, speechless. Ethan glanced at her, something proud flickering behind his eyes. Inside, the orchestra played soft jazz. Board members and socialites drifted toward them with polite smiles and sharper words. A woman in a sequined gown leaned close to Maya, her tone dripping with mock sweetness. You are very brave to wear that color, dear. It takes confidence. Maya smiled politely. Confidence is not about size or money. It is about remembering who you are when everyone else forgets. The woman blinked, unable to reply. Ethan almost smiled, though he hid it behind his glass of champagne. Later in the evening, as they posed for photographs near the stage, Maya noticed Ethan's hand tremble slightly when the cameras drew too close. She leaned closer and whispered, "Breathe. You are fine." He looked at her, startled, and then exhaled. No one had ever told him that before. When the speeches began, Ethan was called to the microphone. He spoke about the foundation, about technology and opportunity. But as he looked at Maya standing near the edge of the stage, his practiced words faltered. For the first time, he improvised. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "we forget that strength does not always look the way we expect. Sometimes it stands quietly beside us, reminding us what humanity means." The audience applauded politely, not understanding that he was no longer speaking about business. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Ethan and Maya stepped out into the cool night air. The city lights shimmered in the distance. She let out a small laugh. "I think I survived your world." He glanced down at her. "You did more than survive, you changed it." The ride back to the mansion was quiet. In the car's reflection, their eyes met more than once, both aware of something fragile shifting between them. When they arrived, Ethan walked her to her room as usual. But this time, he hesitated at the door. "You were incredible tonight," he said softly. "Thank you for being there." She looked up at him. "It is part of the contract, remember?" He nodded, but his smile was faint. "Maybe some parts of it feel less like a contract now." After he left, Maya sat by the window, watching the rain start again over the garden fountains. Her heart was unsteady, but not from fear. Somewhere in the stillness of that night, she realized she had begun to see the man behind the arrogance, and maybe, just maybe, he had begun to see her too. The morning after the gala, sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Cole estate. For the first time, the house did not feel like a museum. It felt lived in. Maya sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through her phone as messages poured in. Photos from the gala were everywhere, headlines calling her the unexpected Mrs. Cole, comments ranging from admiration to cruelty. She set the phone down and sighed. Ethan walked in, freshly dressed, holding his coffee. "Do not read them," he said quietly. "I have seen worse," she replied, but her voice betrayed her. "They call me names, Ethan. They think this marriage is a joke." He met her eyes. "Then we prove them wrong." Later that afternoon, a press conference awaited at his company headquarters. Ethan had insisted Maya join him. When they stepped out of the car, the sound of cameras and voices surrounded them like thunder. He placed a protective hand at her back and whispered, "Just walk with me." Inside, under the bright lights, the reporters were relentless. One woman asked sharply, "Mr. Cole, people are saying you married her as part of a dare. What do you say to that?" Maya froze. The room seemed to shrink. Ethan's expression did not change, but his grip on the podium tightened. "People say many things," he said steadily, "but they do not know her. They do not know what she has overcome." The reporters kept pushing, smelling scandal. "So you are denying it?" He hesitated too long. The silence was enough. Cameras flashed. Maya felt the ground fall from beneath her. She turned to him, eyes wide with disbelief, and whispered, "A dare? Is that what this was?" "Maya, please, not here," he murmured, reaching for her. But she stepped back. The press erupted in noise as she walked out of the room. Her heels echoed down the marble corridor, her heart breaking with every step. By the time Ethan caught up to her outside, she was already pulling the ring off her finger. Rain began to fall, cold and sharp. She looked at him with tears mixing into the downpour. "To you, I was just a bet. To me, it was a promise." He shook his head, his voice cracking. "It was not like that anymore. I swear it changed. It brand seven the baddest of Dade." She took a step back. "Then why could you not say it in there?" He had no answer. The silence said everything. Maya left that night. The car that had once carried her into luxury now drove her away from it. The city blurred outside the window, neon lights, rain, and memories she wished she could forget. Back at the mansion, Ethan stood alone by the piano, the same spot where she had once listened from the hallway. He pressed one key, then another. But the music that came out was hollow. For the first time in years, His home felt empty again. He thought of her words about confidence, about kindness, about seeing the person beneath the surface. He realized too late that what had started as a reckless bet had become the only honest thing in his life. The next morning, headlines screamed across every paper. Marriage built on a dare-ends scandal. And see Dapri. Ethan turned off his phone, staring out at the rain-soaked city. The mansion around him was silent, but his mind was loud with one truth he could no longer deny: he had fallen in love with the woman he was never supposed to notice. Days turned into weeks, and the headlines refused to fade. The story of Ethan Cole's dare marriage became the city's favorite scandal. Business magazines questioned his judgment. Investors demanded explanations, and late-night hosts turned his name into a punchline. Inside the towering glass walls of Cole Enterprises, Ethan's employees avoided his gaze. Every meeting ended in silence. Every deal he had built for years now hung in doubt, but none of it hurt as much as the empty chair across from him at the dining table, or the sound of footsteps that no longer echoed down the hallway. Maya had returned to her old apartment above the bakery, where the smell of vanilla and sugar lingered. Life felt simpler again, but it no longer felt complete. Her mother's health had improved thanks to the money Ethan had already paid, yet every time Maya looked at the hospital receipt, she felt a twist of guilt. It was a debt she could not repay, not with dollars or distance. She told herself she would forget him, but some nights, when she wiped the counter and heard rain tapping the window, she could still hear his piano, those uncertain, tender notes drifting through her memory. One morning, she walked past a newspaper stand and froze. The front page showed Ethan standing before reporters outside his company headquarters, his expression grave. The headline read, "Cole Foundation launches True Beauty Initiative supporting women empowerment programs." Her heart stuttered. She bought the paper and read every word. Ethan had donated $10 million to start a nonprofit foundation in her name, the Maya Brooks Initiative. The mission was simple: to help women who face body shaming, discrimination, and financial hardship find education and employment opportunities. The article quoted him directly. "Real worth cannot be measured by appearances or status. It is measured by kindness, by resilience, and by the courage to stand tall in a world that tries to make you smaller." Maya folded the paper and held it against her chest. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly brushed them away. "Why now, Ethan?" she whispered. "Why, when I am no longer there?" Later that week, she received an invitation in the mail. The envelope was ivory, her name written in the same steady handwriting she remembered. It read, "You are cordially invited to the Cole Foundation Gala, dedicated to the Maya Brooks Initiative." Her first instinct was to tear it up, but something stopped her. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was closure. The night of the event, she stood at the entrance of the same ballroom where their story had begun. This time, she wore a simple black gown. No reporters shouted her name, no cameras flashed, but as she stepped inside, the crowd slowly turned. Ethan stood on the stage, speaking to hundreds of guests. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of everything he had lost. "Months ago, I made a mistake," he said. "I let pride turn a person into a wager. But that person changed me. She reminded me that love without respect is not love at all. Tonight, I want to make something right." He gestured toward a covered frame beside him. When the cloth fell, it revealed a portrait, an oil painting of Maya in the red gown from the first gala, standing tall, confident, radiant. The plaque beneath it read, "To the woman who taught me dignity." The audience erupted in applause. Maya's hands trembled as tears filled her eyes. Ethan looked directly at her, his voice steady. "You once told me confidence is remembering who you are, when everyone else forgets. I forgot, but I remember now." The crowd parted as she walked toward the stage. He stepped down to meet her, his expression raw, unguarded. "Maya," he said softly, "I do not expect forgiveness. But I wanted the world to know what I failed to say before, that you were never a dare. You were the best decision I ever made." For a moment, the room held its breath. Maya looked at him, searching for arrogance, for pity finding none. Only sincerity. She spoke quietly. "You did not need to build a foundation to prove you changed. You just needed to be honest." "I am now," he said. The orchestra began to play, soft and slow. Applause rose again as cameras flashed, not for scandal this time, but for something far rarer in their world. Redemption. As the music swelled, Ethan extended his hand. May I? Maya hesitated, then placed her hand in his. Only if it is not part of a deal, she whispered. He smiled. No contracts this time, just truth. And under the chandelier light, they began to dance two people who had started as a bet, finding their way back to something real. Outside, rain began to fall once more, gentle and forgiving, washing the city clean. The music faded, but the silence that followed felt alive. As the last note lingered in the air, Ethan and Maya stood inches apart, both unsure whether to step back or stay close. Applause still echoed through the ballroom, but to them, the world had gone quiet. Maya pulled her hand away gently. You have made your apology, Ethan. You have done more than anyone could ask. But forgiveness, that takes time. He nodded, his eyes steady. Take all the time you need. I am not asking you to come back. I am only asking you to believe that I have changed. Maya looked around at the crowd, the same faces that once mocked her, now clapping for a cause born from her pain. You already proved that, she said softly. Not to them, to yourself. Later that night, she slipped out of the gala quietly. The city lights shimmered across the wet pavement as she walked toward the bakery where everything had started. She unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and stood in the familiar warmth of sugar and cinnamon. The world outside had changed, but here, she could breathe again. She began to mix dough, her movements slow, thoughtful. As she worked, she realized something: the anger that had once burned inside her had faded. In its place was something steadier, peace. Across town, Ethan sat in his study, still in his tuxedo, the applause from earlier ringing faintly in his mind. The foundation's success meant nothing compared to the quiet emptiness that settled in his chest. He looked at the framed photo on his desk, the one from the courthouse wedding. She was smiling in it, not out of love but of nervous hope. He traced her outline with his thumb and whispered, I hope you find happiness, even if it is not with me. Weeks passed. The foundation grew, and the media slowly shifted from gossip to admiration. Ethan refused interviews, focusing instead on the work. He attended community meetings, funded scholarships, and built programs that changed lives quietly, without headlines. Every project carried Maya's name, though he never reached out to her again. One crisp morning, Maya stepped outside her bakery to find a small box on the doorstep. Inside was a single cupcake vanilla, with caramel frosting, and a note written in the same familiar handwriting. I remembered your favorite. I thought the world could use a little more sweetness. E. Maya smiled, shaking her head. Still stubborn, she murmured. She took a bite of the cupcake and let the taste remind her that not all endings needed to be bitter. That evening, as she closed the shop, she looked up to see a man standing across the street, his coat dark against the light drizzle. Ethan did not move closer. He simply nodded, almost like a promise, and turned to leave. Maya watched him disappear into the night, her heart strangely calm. The pain was gone. What remained was gratitude for the lesson, for the growth, for the proof that change was possible. She turned the sign on the door from open to closed, wiped the counter one last time, and whispered to herself, it was never about the dare. It was always about becoming who we were meant to be. And somewhere in the distance, faint but certain, a piano began to play again, soft, honest, and full of grace. A few months later, spring returned to New York. The city woke from its gray slumber, and for the first time in a long while, Maya felt something like lightness in her chest. Business at the bakery was steady, her mother was recovering well, and laughter had slowly crept back into their apartment. Yet sometimes, in the quiet between customers, she still caught herself glancing at the door as if expecting someone who would never come. One Friday morning, she unlocked the bakery early to prepare a large catering order. As she arranged cupcakes on the display, she noticed a familiar object by the window, a small glass dome covering a single vanilla cupcake, perfectly frosted. A note sat beside it. One more delivery. E. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. Beneath the short message, there was an address and a time, Central Park, 5 p.m. She almost laughed. You really do not give up, do you? She whispered. When the sun dipped low that evening, Maya walked through the park, past blooming cherry trees and the sound of street musicians. Near the bridge, she saw him, Ethan, waiting in a dark suit, holding something in his hand. He looked the same, yet not at all. The arrogance was gone, What remained was humility. She approached cautiously. You are persistent, Ethan. He smiled faintly. Only when something matters. They stood in silence for a moment, the soft breeze carrying the scent of blossoms around them. Finally, he spoke. I spent months trying to figure out how to apologize, but every time I thought about it, words felt too small. So I built a foundation instead. I played the piano again. I tried to become the kind of man who deserved the woman he once hurt. Maya crossed her arms, her tone gentle but firm. And do you think you have become that man now? He nodded slowly. I hope so, but only you can decide that. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a delicate silver key. It is for the bakery's new kitchen extension. The foundation sponsored it anonymously months ago, but I wanted to tell you myself. It is yours now. She stared at the key, speechless. You did not have to do that. I wanted to, he said, because you once gave me something without asking for anything in return, your honesty. I am just giving back a little of what you taught me. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Maya took a slow breath. Ethan, I forgave you a long time ago, but I needed to learn to forgive myself too, for believing I was not enough. He looked at her with quiet admiration. You have always been more than enough, Maya. She smiled, soft and sincere. Then maybe it is time we both stop living in the past. Ethan extended his hand, uncertain but hopeful. Would you let me walk you home? Maya hesitated, then slipped her hand into his. Only if you promise not to make any more bets. He laughed softly. No bets, just beginnings. And Damber restored. And Dambers. They walked together beneath the pink sky, the noise of the city fading behind them. For the first time, there were no contracts, no press, no pretending, only two people who had learned, through heartbreak and humility, what love was truly meant to be. As they crossed the bridge, Maya glanced back once more at the path they had both taken. The mistakes, the lessons, the courage to start over. Then she turned forward, her hand still in his, and whispered, Let's go home. And somewhere in the distance, the sound of a piano echoed once again, gentle and full of promise, carrying their story into a future finally free of dares and full of truth. Summer came early that year. The city glowed under a golden haze, and the scent of warm bread drifted from Maya's bakery onto the busy street. Business had grown since the foundation helped her expand, and every morning people lined up outside the door for her pastries. Yet even with all the success, Maya never forgot how everything had begun with a bet that turned into something neither of them had expected. Ethan visited the bakery often, never making a scene. Sometimes he bought a box of cupcakes for the foundation staff. Sometimes he just sat quietly at a corner table, sipping coffee while she worked behind the counter. They did not talk about the past much anymore. They did not need to. It was there in every glance, every small smile, every unspoken understanding that forgiveness had already done its work. One evening after closing time, Ethan walked in carrying a small envelope. Maya looked up from wiping the counter. You are late, she teased. He smiled. Traffic. Or maybe I just wanted you to close the shop before I asked. Asked what? She said, raising an eyebrow. He handed her the envelope. Inside was a simple note written in his steady hand. Dinner. Tomorrow night. The same rooftop where it all started. Maya looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. One condition. No surprises. He chuckled. No bets, no surprises. Just honesty. The next evening, the rooftop of the Vanguard Club was transformed. Instead of the noisy crowd and flashing cameras from that infamous night months ago, there were only candles, soft lights, and a small table for two. The city sparkled below, quiet and endless. When Maya arrived, Ethan stood waiting, dressed simply, no tuxedo, no spotlight, just a man, humbled and sure. She smiled when she saw him. You really kept your promise. I intend to keep all of them this time, he said. They sat together, sharing food, laughter, and stories about how much had changed. The sky deepened into violet, and the air filled with the hum of the city below. Then Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and placed something on the table, a small velvet box. Maya froze. Ethan, we said no surprises. He nodded slowly. I know, but this is not a surprise. It is a choice. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple and elegant, nothing like the one from their first marriage contract. No contracts this time, No signatures. Just this. Her voice trembled. What are you asking? He took her hand gently. To start again. For real. Not because of a dare, not because of a deal, but because I love you. I loved you when you challenged me, when you forgave me, and even when you walked away. I just did not know how to say it then. Maya looked at him for a long, silent moment. The city lights reflected in her eyes, and when she finally spoke, her voice was calm and certain. You took everything that once hurt and turned it into something beautiful. That is what love is supposed to do. So yes, Ethan, we can start again. He smiled, relief breaking across his face as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had always been meant for her. They stood together at the edge of the rooftop, the city stretching before them. The same place that had once begun as a cruel bet was now the place where they promised each other a real future. As the wind lifted her hair and the night wrapped around them, Maya whispered, "Funny how the world brings you full circle." Ethan laughed softly. "No, Maya, the world did not bring me back to you. You did." This is afternoon, and as the lights of New York shimmered around them, they kissed not for show, not for redemption, but for love, pure and unpretending, the kind that finally turned a bet into forever.